Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we observe another instrument, another woodwind instrument, let's say the oboe today, and its history in nutshells. And let's start with a little music. Let me play for you a little bit from the second movement of Alessandro Marcello's oboe concerto in D minor with my wonderful friend from Italy. And here is the second movement. Isn't he just beautiful? Very simple, very ancient. And basically, the oboe was invented in the middle of the 17th century by two French instrumentalists, Jacques Hotteterre and Michel Philidor, with the purpose of entertaining the royal court. And the word meaning of oboe is high-pitched, loud woodwind instrument. And it was so convincing that when Louis XIV heard it, asked Lully, why don't we put that to the military bands? And it was so critical and typical for the military band, they called even the military musicians as oboists. And in peacetime, they were just sitting behind the strings, and we got the symphony orchestra. You see how important the culture of Louis XIV was. And the oboe became a very, very important instrument, spreading very quickly. And the education of oboe was spreading so quickly. So 1697, Cross published the very first school of oboe. And when the oboe spread all over of Europe, the Germans made it a little bit more and developed it a little more and added two more keys in 1727. But let's see, here is the first oboe that the French invented. Here is the German version with more keys. Here's the today's oboe, and here are next to each other several possibilities. The probably kind of ancestor of the oboe, the shawm from the Renaissance period. You see, there's no any keys, just same size, same length instrument covering the same sound range, working with the same double reed the concept as the oboes. Here is the first Baroque oboe, the German version, early classical, late classical, early 20th century, late 20th century oboe that we have today with 1921 keys, depending on which one who prefers. Here are the French military with the oboes involved with the band, and here is the military band of Napoleon. It is a very important turning point because this is when, after the Napoleon Wars, the function of the oboe changed because of the French Revolution. David Whitwell very clearly points out that the oboe was replaced with the clarinets in terms of importance in the wind ensembles because the oboe had the aristocratic characteristics, aristocratic origin, and the clarinet represented the common folks, the public, the majority, bigger size of the society. But how the sound is created in the oboe? What is music? Human-made, expressively organized sound combination. It's based on sound combination coming from the frequency, the vibration traveling in air. And I never forget it. When I was 5, I was in kindergarten. We picked up a piece of grass, and let me try that I remember what we did. We put it between our fingers, and after we blow a little air, and there was a vibration creating a sound. And let's hope that it will work still after not doing that for 57 years. So let me try. Here we are. No, not very good. Better. So this is the main principle how the oboe works, vibrating, but not a piece of grass like I did at age 5, 57 years ago, but a vibration of the reed. And because there are two surfaces the oboe as a double reed instrument. And here is an earlier version of the double reed, and here is the oboe double reed mouthpiece. Here are a couple of reeds. You can see how tiny it is and how personal it is. It's an art. And for all the oboists, they make their own reed by hand, as you can see here, and they have a big collection of those. Why do they need big collection? Because all are a little bit different. Every piece might call for a different reed. Maybe a Baroque piece, they will choose a different one. A contemporary, they use a different one. For a solo, for a tutti, a different one. And you can see how tiny is the opening spot of the oboe reed, so very little air can go through. Oboists always have much more air that they need for the instrument, so it's not easy to play the oboe and still extremely projective instrument. This is why all the orchestras and wind bands, with symphonic bands, they're tuning for the oboe. It's so projective, so strong the sound that everyone will hear in the room. And the experiments show that you need more than 120 strings to cover one oboe. This is why they called the name oboe as the high-pitched, loud woodwind instrument. So intonation tuning is still there. Musicologists and aesthetic analysts totally agree that the oboe sound, the instrument of the oboe sound, is the closest to the human voice. This is why the main characteristics of the oboe solos are always lyrical, singing like beautiful melodies. Basically, all the instruments were invented to imitate the human voice, but probably the oboe is the closest one to our voice that we try to save for singing and preserve it for the stage for instruments, and oboe succeeded with that beautifully. Basically, the double reed instruments are not that new for the human history. We have double reed back to the 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. The Mesopotamians had already double reed instruments. And this picture from the pharaoh's tomb shows that the Egyptians had double reed instruments, and the double reed instruments were known by both the Greeks and the Romans, and you saw the sham. And by today, we have the entire family of the oboe family developed, starting with the oboe and the heckelphone that we also call as baritone oboe. It is the bass oboe, the heckelphone, the oboe d'amour, the cor anglais, and the oboe and the soprano version of that. So we have the entire family, same idea as the violins, from violin to double bass, covering from the highest female voice to the lowest bass voice, the human sound range covered by the homogenic double reed, same concept instruments. Why don't we listen a little more of this oboe concerto that Alberto just played for us, and let's go back to the last movement and listen a little excerpt from the last movement, and let's see how he will play that and how the characteristics will remind you for those said. And also probably watch the conductor, because I think he's not doing a bad job. I start to like that. And don't forget my Hungarian accent. Here we are. Very good. So this is the history very, very shortly. And with my Hungarian accent, I hope you will remember even more. Don't forget my grass demonstration for the sound creation with vibrating those tiny reed on the oboe, and how difficult it is. So all the oboists are my heroes just for that. And I wish for also the Sao Paulo State Symphonic Band being reinstated and the government opening their purse and keep paying them to make sure that people will get more instrumental music, because music makes people better. And we need more. This is a very ancient profession in the human culture. And don't forget that traditions are preserving very deep human meanings. And if an instrument has that centuries of history, we should think about that to support that and keep it for future generations, because we preserve something very important, human characteristics there. I hope you miss already my Hungarian accent. I promise I will be back. Have a great evening. Hope to see you soon.